Well, good afternoon. It's a rainy Thursday here, and this has to be Coffee with Ralph. Listen, I'm Ralph Gale. I'm the founder of Fireproof Financial Group. I've been doing this for a long time, but I've been talking about memories and how memories make us who we are. Well, today I'm going to talk about decisions. That's what we're going to talk about today. Decisions. When should we make our decisions and what should those decisions be? Remember, coffeewithralph.com is a free 15-minute call with me. And it just seems that every time I turn around, there's a decision that has to be made. Might not be the most fun, but like today, everybody's moping and groaning about the rain right now. It's rainy. Well, you know what? That means we're going to have some beautiful spring flowers, doesn't it? And it's getting close to morel mushroom hunting time. I love those morel mushrooms. They're yummy on steak. Like I said, 15-minute call with me, coffeewithralph.com. It's free. Free of charge. I'll answer whatever you bring. Bring it to the table, put it on the table. Today, I wanted to talk about decisions. Excuse me. My discussion is about decisions. Do you realize how many decisions you make? I mean, I really don't think about it, but if it's time to get up, I get up, I go make the coffee, I shower, I put the clothes on. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of decisions every day. And one of those decisions starts years before. We have our collections. We have me, I got fishing gear, I've got hunting gear, I've got tools, I've got all kinds of stuff I've collected and have value to me. Rifles. But I want to tell you about a friend of mine. And his decisions jumped up and grabbed me when I started thinking about this the other day. His retirement plan was pretty straightforward to him. He'd put some cash aside, just as we all have. But his big investment was his restoration of antique side-by-side shotguns. He was meticulous about these shotguns. And what made them special, for the life of me, can't remember the name, but they had not been built in over 100 years. So when he found one, it was a real treat for him. He sat there and he told me about every decision he had to make when he was restoring them. He went to tell me about the value of each one of these. I think he had 30 of these antique shotguns he'd restored himself. So his big investment was in his time. But it kind of reminds me of that commercial. It's from one of those guaranteed life insurance companies. I'm not sure which one. The mother flings open the door on the garage, and she looks at this garage packed with stuff and said, "Honey, one day all this will be yours." And the daughter looks at her with a scrunched up face and goes, "Thank you?" Like, really? Well, to the mom, as to my friend, each one of those items has an absolute concrete value to it. They know what it's worth. They know what it is. Value to them. But that's where things come different. Kids don't know the value. They don't have the same value on things. I looked around my house and I thought, boy, that rifle I got there, man, that's worth a lot of money. But I don't use it. So I thought, well, I'll keep it for the kids. They'll want it. Or I could sell it maybe sometime in the future down the road, because it's a big game rifle. So, somebody will want that. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I know what I'll do. I'll save it. Here we go with this whole decision. And then I'll give it to them. But that's where the decision came in, and that commercial was the perfect response. The daughter says, thank you, like with a scrunched up face going, it's as if to say, I don't really want this stuff, Mom. Our kids don't want our stuff. They really don't. For us, it has a sentimental value. And so a lot of times, an actual value. Antiques have value. We know what they're worth, but our kids don't. They don't necessarily want to know. Well, back to my friend and his shotguns. They were his retirement plan, his long-term care plan, and his legacy. He never needed long-term care. He got an aggressive form of cancer and died within months. What about all his 30 shotguns? I think when we added it up, and that's been a few years ago, he told me there's like $750,000 in antique shotguns. The one I remembered most was his Pride and Joy. He said it was well over 150 years old. And he'd restored it back to brand new, put a new English walnut stock on it because that's what it would have had. He said it was worth at least $50,000 minimum, he said. Here's what's interesting. He passed, and I saw the auction, online auction. I get gunbroker.com, antique rifles, that kind of stuff go through there. His estate sold that rifle, that shotgun, for $5,000. His children had no idea of its value. He didn't have it written down anywhere. So when it sold for $5,000, that's $5,000. That's a tenth of what it was worth. That was 5 or 6 years ago, and he told me it was worth $50,000. To them, it was just an old gun. To my friend, it was his pride and joy. He'd worked over a year to restore that thing and bring it back to absolute mint condition. So I guess that's what I'm getting at today. Decisions. Decisions on what to keep and what not to keep. It's just difficult. And if it's difficult for us, can we imagine what it's going to be like for our kids? As I look at my own life, I can see where people have a difficult time planning for this stuff. Because I've got to look down the road when I can't make decisions. Something silly came to my mind on why I was watching and thinking about this, and that's our collection of guns and our collection of antiques and maybe our hot rods. But what about our pets? What's going to happen to my cat? What's going to happen to my dog, my goldfish, my lizard, my snakes, my parrot? What about my collections? What should happen with those? What should I tell my children to do with them? At what point, when we need care, are they not necessary for us to have any longer? When it's more vital that we use the cash from them to pay for our care, maybe give it to our kids early. Well, back to my original statement. How many decisions do you think you make every day? I'll use me. I get up every morning. I have 2 dogs and 3 cats, one of which, we're just talking about pets, one of which was abandoned. Wait a minute. They were all abandoned on my doorstep. This one really got my attention. She was an adult Siamese cat. And she was probably 7 or 8 years old, or she is probably 7 or 8 years old. I came to the conclusion that she was owned by an older person, probably all by himself or herself. And I can imagine the conversation that happened when Dad needed care. Don't worry, Dad, we'll take care of her. Well, he had taken very good care of this kitty. But they left her alone on my doorstep. I live on a private road, so they just drove down the road, dumped her off, and then drove away. And I think, is that the decision he'd have made? Like I said, I get up every day, I feed my 2 dogs, my 2 cats that are inside, which were abandoned too. And then I go outside and I feed Miss Mabel. She was the one that was dumped on my doorstep and left alone to survive in the outdoors when she'd never been alone outdoors. And every time I feed her, I think to myself, boy, he loved her. He took real good care of her. She's such a loving animal. And I'm sure that kids telling dad that they were going to take care of her, they knew exactly what they were going to do. So why aren't we making these decisions for ourselves? Because they're difficult? If they're difficult for us, how difficult are they going to be for our kids? A sale like that estate sale, selling rifles online for whatever they can get for them versus what they're worth. Those kind of things never have good outcomes. Decisions that are made by somebody that doesn't have the same interest in your stuff and your pets and your collections are never great decisions. Never going to get the value for what you think they're worth, and never are they going to take care of the animals the way you take care of them. I talk to each one of my clients about putting stuff down in writing. And I have to tell you, I didn't think about the pets and the collections and stuff like that. I was thinking more of my personal care and their personal care. But if you took my old lab and left him out there to suffer by himself, I'd break my heart. I'm sure if this man knew that they dumped his cat, it'd break his heart. It'd probably change the way he wrote his will, as a matter of fact. And I'm not worried about your care. I mean, we'll get that planned for. Your family's going to help there. They're going to go with their best intentions to try to get the kind of care that you can afford. But they don't have the same connection with your pets and your collections as you do. So how about we do something? How about we start writing stuff down? What do I want to happen with my tools? Are they that important that I'm going to worry about those? Probably not. What about my fishing gear? What about my trophies? What about my pets? What about my gun collection? I'm going to leave you with this today. I want you to look at your pet, whether that's a cat, a dog, a lizard, a monkey, a parrot, I don't care. And I want you to think, what should happen to this animal if I no longer can care for it because I'm physically or mentally incapable? After they are your companions. They are your friends. I wouldn't leave my friend just out to suffer on his own. I want you to look at all your belongings, your stuff, and I want you to think about, when should I dispose of these things? Which ones do my kids really want? If they want any of them. That way they're not forced to do it. Because very frankly, it's not comfortable anytime that happens if you've been through it. And you don't get the proper value if things go up in an emergency force type sale. And just think about every estate sale you've ever been to, if you've been to it. I watched things go for a third of their value many, many times because it's done on an emergency basis. Those type of sales are never what's in your best interest. They're never what you get. So if you have a coin collection, for example, why don't you write down the value of each coin and the date that you had it valued at that? So they have some kind of idea what to do. Or if you're been saving it up for a time when you need care yourself, maybe now's the time to liquidate it, put the money somewhere along with the plan, the written plan, and get moving forward. The best vacation I've ever had was one that was well planned, not minute by minute, but day by day, maybe even morning to afternoon. Everything had a plan. Long-term care isn't any different, folks. It's not a vacation. It is the last part of our life, but it can go smoothly and it can go without stress to your family if you'll do some simple things like writing things down. This has been Coffee with Ralph. Like I said, remember that it's a free 15-minute phone call with me. Ralph, coffeewithralph.com.